Friday afternoon to you. This is our January 3rd edition of the map discussion. We're starting out here with the water vapor imagery. You can see clearly that the rain is coming and snow for some of us. But this is our system that is just now approaching the Pacific Northwest. This will be the main story going into the weekend and into early next week, as this will be responsible for some pretty major snow across parts of the Central Plains and the Mid-Mississippi River Valley and in the Ohio River Valley and the Mid-Atlantic. So yeah, we'll get into that right now. So to begin with, as always, well, as recently as now, we will look at the 300 millibar maps. You can see the jet stream diving across the upper plains and into the southeastern United States with low pressure, upper level low across southeastern Canada. The 500 millibar map looks pretty similar, but at this level you can start to see the system across the Pacific Northwest that will be eventually responsible for our snowstorm across the central United States. But again, this features some high pressure in northern Mexico and low pressure across southeastern Canada with some pretty hefty winds in between. Going down at 850 millibars, you have some enhanced flow across the parts of the Ohio River Valley into Illinois and southwestern Indiana, with again a surface or a low-level cyclone across southeastern Canada with some enhanced flow across northern New England, and that system out in the Pacific Northwest that will be causing some problems not only for eventually the central parts of the United States, but more immediate in the Pacific Northwest with some more precipitation. If we take a look at our height falls, you can generally see some height rises across the central part of the United States and height falls on either side. The height falls across the Pacific Northwest, again, that's responsible for the system that we will probably see evolve in our models right now. So this is our multi-model ensemble. Again, this is a weighted average between the previous runs of the GFS, the GEFS, and some AI influences, machine learning models. You can clearly see on the Pacific Northwest that system that we will track across the Intermountain West by tomorrow morning, Saturday, January 4th. The upper level trough will be across the Intermountain West, and this will continue to slide eastward and southeastward until it gets to the southern plains, where a surface low pressure is expected to develop somewhere in central or eastern Oklahoma. And as this surface low develops, precipitation on the northern end should start to break out across parts of Nebraska and Kansas and into western Missouri and perhaps the southern parts of Iowa. But mostly this should be on the wintry precipitation side, some ice and definitely some snow across these areas. As this system progresses eastward, and it will be fairly progressive, which means it's not going to really hang out in one place any particular amount of time. By Monday, January 6th at 7 a.m., that low pressure should be somewhere in eastern Kentucky or southern Ohio, with perhaps even a closed mid-level low across this area. But If it's closed or not, it's going to be still fairly progressive, as that system will move off the eastern seaboard by Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. Meanwhile, back to the west, we have another little trough digging into the desert southwest. This will kind of rotate around this main, almost like a polar vortex, so to speak. This will rotate around to the northern Mexico by January 8th. And then January 9th, it's still hanging out there. You have another little surface low pressure in southern Canada that will be almost like a clipper type system. And then by the January 10th, this slow moving trough here will still be in northern Mexico, but then in the Gulf of Mexico, there will be a surface response to this trough that is forecast. So you can see that the surface pressure across northern Gulf of Mexico start to decrease as this upper level trough approaches that area. So this will be another system to watch for perhaps some precipitation across the deep south and southeastern United States going into the next few days. So let's talk more about the storm system that will affect the mid parts of the continent, the mid parts of the United States. All right, so here is our multi-model ensemble. Precipitation, which is the colors, the temperature in the red and blue lines, and surface pressure in the black lines. So that first blue line is the freezing, surface freezing point. So it's 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit. If we push this across time, you can see that surface low pressure starts to develop across the panhandle of Texas and into western Oklahoma. And then by Sunday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern time, 6 a.m. Central, you see some precipitation start to break out in these regions north of the low. So this should be mainly wintry precipitation. So anything from like freezing rain, sleet, and snow. The further north you are, the more likely snow is. Parts of maybe perhaps central Kansas, southern Kansas, and maybe western parts of Missouri will start to see ice, more ice than snow. But if we move this across the area, the low deepens, but that precipitation shield on the back end in the northern part, this should be mainly wintry precipitation. Typically, points north of this blue line would experience some type of winter precipitation, and some snow still hanging around the parts of Missouri. This is January 6th at 1 a.m. Eastern time. But notice on the southern parts of the system, you still have some precipitation and a very pronounced frontal system. So maybe some severe weather is expected across parts of Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. Unfortunately, the same areas that saw severe weather last week or earlier this week will start to see some severe weather again, unfortunately. But so if we push this forward a little bit more, it looks like the mountains of North Carolina should generally be okay as far as any wintry precipitation. It looks to be all liquid, maybe with some pockets of freezing rain, especially in the mountains, the high country of North Carolina, and parts of eastern Tennessee. But mainly, it looks to be rain for those people out there. But still some snow across Ohio and Indiana, get into Pennsylvania, and even into New Jersey. Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. should see a good amount of snow. So let's look at a particular solution. Right now, we've all looked at a multi-model ensemble. Let's look at a particular deterministic solution. So this is the latest GFS model. This is one component of that multi-model ensemble that we have. And the graphics here are courtesy of weathernerds.org. So on this map, we have total snowfall and surface pressure. So you can see where this at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 6 a.m. Central Time, that low pressure should start to develop across parts of the panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma, with some snow on the back end and northern parts of this. Perhaps some ice south of Topeka, but this is snowfall. As we push this forward, you can see that it's a pretty nice area of very heavy snow, upwards to over a foot of snow in some locations, over a wide swath from north central Kansas, southern Nebraska, through northern Missouri, central Illinois, southern Indiana, and southern Ohio, especially. Looking at anywhere from 8 to a foot of snow. And some of these areas, this particular model run is looking at over 18 inches of snow, but might be a little overdone here. But still, you have a wide swath of very heavy snow. And not to mention, just immediately south of that, just to the south of the heaviest snow, a lot of ice could fall. Freezing rain, sleet, which is something not desirable, because this causes widespread power outages, and it's no fun, especially with the cold Arctic air that's going to be in place over the next few days. So please take precautions now if you live in anywhere these areas shaded, especially if you are in the southern part of this heavy swath of snow. So this is the EPS output for mean 2-meter temperature anomaly over a 5-day average. You still have this story about this cold air invading the United States from Canada. And what's pretty interesting here from a modeling standpoint is you can clearly see, at least according to this model, where most of the wintry precipitation will occur, where this places like east central Kansas into Missouri, across the Ohio and mid-Mississippi River Valley into the mid-Atlantic. This is where the majority of the wintry precipitation would fall, at least according to the Euro ensemble prediction system. But as we go through the next few weeks, between January 13th and 18th, this cold air mass that has settled across the eastern and southeastern parts of the United States will start to modify with an increasing sun angle, and some much warmer than average temperatures will expand across Canada. While we're still hanging on to cooler than average temperatures, it's not going to be quite as cool as it was earlier in the week, especially between January 6th and January 11th. That is depicted right here. So some precautions need to be taken, especially if you lose power during this Arctic blast. So be safe out there. So this is the, going back to the multi-model ensemble, this is the total average 7-day total precipitation that we should see, at least according to our multi-model ensemble. The majority of the precipitation in this area will be falling as winter precipitation, either snow or sleet or freezing rain, while south of that, this should be mainly rain and perhaps even thunderstorms across the Gulf Coast and deep south. So this is all the areas of in green, especially, and yellows and reds that will see some pretty hefty precipitation. The areas in the southwest Oregon or northwest California, this is, you guys have been slammed pretty much the last few weeks with the atmospheric river out there. So I'm expecting a little bit more over the next 7 days from that. Yeah, so this is all of the precipitation. And you can see some lake effect snow across those lake effect prone areas across upstate New York and into Pennsylvania and Ohio and the UP of Michigan. Sweet. So there are already winter storm watches up across the areas that are expected to see some wintry precipitation. I expect most of those watches to become upgraded to warnings, and even some ice storm warnings may be issued. But generally, anywhere along and north of the low-level cyclone, whatever the eventual track is, that will be the areas that will be most likely to see some wintry precipitation. Areas to the south of that should see mainly liquid precipitation with some perhaps thunderstorms across the deep south and the lower southern parts of Mississippi River Valley. But that about does it for this video. You guys be safe out there. If you are under any type of winter weather or severe weather advisories, please heed those warnings. Get your local TV stations, radio stations, National Weather Service as your favorite media outlet, NOAA weather radios. Get those ready. Be prepared for power outages, especially in those hard-hit areas from the winter part of this storm, and look out for some tornadoes and severe thunderstorms in the southern part of the storm. So you guys be safe out there, and I will see you in the next video.